Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. I'm wonderful. How are you?
Oh, my parts are being super weird tonight, but I'm good other than that.
Well, that's good. That'll give us lots to explore.
Yeah, I hope it does, but part of the thing is that I think they get and it's nothing you did, but it's I think they're starting to understand that they're going to get explored in these sessions, and so they start to get squirrely about it even beforehand.
Totally. Well,
yeah.
We don't have to ever explore them in these sessions. You can do that on your own, and you can also give them disguises so that,
Yeah.
You can sneak up on them or, not share any of it with me. There's ways around that.
That is good to reassure them that they don't have to open up if they don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll want to meet you. So
yeah,
that can be very different from opening up, exploring, just you being there with them.
True.
They'll appreciate.
True. This is true.
Yeah. Okay. Should we get started?
Sounds good.
Okay. How about a minute of meditation?
Sounds good.
Okay, I'll set a timer. Okay. So, have any parts you'd like to get to know better or change your relationship with?
So there's one that wants to. I think I actually realized the agenda part and the task manager might be the same one. And it's been a little bit difficult to access self when that one is really trying to push me to do things or push me to get through the get through to the exiles, and also so I was like, it's been really important to me to work on the like the one that tries to manage the anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But that one is hard to access. Like I have trouble connecting with it at just like random times. And also when it is active, it's very hard to get it to unblend enough that I can actually offer it some compassion.
Okay.
Like I can sort of do it like a little bit, but it's very hard to get it to stop panicking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you say the anxiety manager, is that the same part we worked with last time that you were calling the stressed out captain?
Yes, that's the captain.
Okay. Right, because you had said that you wanted to set timers to follow up with it, and you're saying that it's hard to access at those times.
Yeah, I did set timers. I set reminders, but honestly, I have never really been having success with concretely reminding myself to do these check-ins and then doing them. Usually what happens is I will just notice a part throughout the day, and I will have an interaction with it. And a lot of times I'll manage to get to know it better, or like make some progress with it. And then I'll be like, oh, I did the thing. And that's been great. Like, I'm not knocking it, but it hasn't been this thing of like, I decide to work on it and then I do. It's just been more spontaneous.
Right. Okay.
So I haven't necessarily been able to reach the captain.
All right. So I'm hearing two major things. One is what we just talked about, reaching the captain. The other is what you first said, the agenda task manager, pushing you to get through to exiles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which of those would you like to focus on first?
Well, I think there's like kind of a relationship between them. There's a relationship between the task manager and every other part, because I think the task manager is kind of the one that really runs the show for me. So it's really the one, if I could pick one part that I would say is most confusing to unblend from, because I feel like it is me, like that's probably that one.
Okay.
So it's, you know, when the captain is kind of like trying to steer the ship through rough waters. I want to say when that's happening, the task manager is kind of like, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. Yeah, that feels right. I was just considering if maybe they're actually the same part, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the captain's trying to steer through the anxiety, and the task manager is coming up with ideas, tasks to help with that.
It's like there's the anxiety, there's the one that's kind of like gripping the steering wheel, being like, let's just clamp down and, you know, power through. And then over top of that, there's one that's going around like, okay, what can we try? Let's unblend, let's access the self, but it's, you know, it's kind of trying too hard to actually be able to.
Okay. Yeah, they work together.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I also realized something right before coming on here, which is that I think the task manager also intensifies the exile's anxiety in a lot of ways. Because like I got a little bit of communication from the exile about what it's scared of, and basically it's like a fear of dying, or a fear of, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the closest thing I can think of, or of things being bad forever or something.
Yeah.
But I was, there's like a specific fear, I think, around dying without having done anything meaningful with my life. So when I worry about like, oh, what if I get like random cancer or something, when I have those like sort of hypochondriac type worries, it's not that I'm afraid of like dying ever eventually when I'm old. It's afraid of not figuring out the meaning of life while I'm alive. And that puts like so much pressure on me.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to meet this standard while I can, like, so yeah, there's a feeling that it really wouldn't be okay if I just lived my life, did some stuff, was never some great hero person, and then just died. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And you're thinking that's mostly exile
I think so.
kind of feeling. Okay.
Yeah, and the task manager makes sense that it's trying to protect from that by having me do things that would make me do a good job at life.
Yes. And the task manager intensifies the exile's anxiety.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we can talk to the task manager about its role.
Yeah.
And how that's working out. And
that would be good.
If it can find some other ways.
Yeah. That would be nice. And okay. I'm thinking the task manager is easy to access because I think it's like always present.
Yeah, well, like you said, sometimes those can be the hardest to access when they're so blended. So
that is true. Yeah, it kind of really thinks it's me.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you notice it in your body?
In my body.
Yeah. You might think of a time when it's extra active.
Okay. Like an urgency. Like hurry up, do things, get things done. But like the physical sensation of it. I guess like a tension in my chest and stomach area. Yeah.
Okay. And how are you feeling towards it right now?
Stressed.
Yeah.
And a little bit scared of it having an existential crisis the more I unblend with it, because I don't think it realizes or wants to know that it's not me.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds kind of like what you first mentioned about parts not wanting to be explored.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think this one's got like, well, you know how there are multiple different parts within parts. Like, I'm pretty sure, because this one is the one that's pushing me to do IFS, the one that's pushing me towards self-discovery, but it's also very like yeah, it just thinks it is me, and it's scared that of what happens if it's not me, because then what am I? If I'm not what it's making me into, then what am I? It doesn't know. And that it
What's
might
it
not
making
be
you
okay.
into?
A better person, a normal person, an acceptable person. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if it wasn't you, then it's afraid that you wouldn't be better, normal, acceptable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I would just be some person at the mercy of everything. I don't know.
Right, because you wouldn't have any tasks, so you would just do whatever, right? Like you said.
And I would also be whatever. I would look like whatever. I would.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know. It's a very deep existential feeling, and it's hard to describe.
Yes, it is hard to describe, but I think that I have very similar parts, and
yeah, you get it.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, who would I even be? What the hell? Like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. When you said, I asked you like how you're feeling towards it, and you said stressed.
Yeah.
And also scared. And you mentioned that scared was this part, being scared of this existential crisis. When you said stressed, is that the part stress?
Yeah, I think it's all just that part being
okay.
Well, it's that part being blended with me. It's the captain and the exile being like, oh, if this one steps back, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. And what are their concerns? Like what would happen?
Well, the captain is afraid that I would freak out, and the exile is just like it's there's fear that the exile is going to get triggered.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to go anywhere. In fact, we're inviting it. We're inviting this part to be known and be more clear.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. When I think about the existential kind of going away feeling that a lot of parts have, I like to remind them that we're spotlighting them, and we're getting more clear about who they are.
Yeah.
It's a promotion from operating, in the dark.
It's true. That's true. And this manager could definitely use some compassion and some help.
Yeah. Are you feeling compassionate for it?
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just see if you can show it that compassion.
Yeah, it appreciates that.
You could ask it what it wants you to know.
It wants me to know that it wants the best for me, which is certainly true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It wants me to be healthy and happy.
That's awesome.
I mean, it is the one that's sort of gotten me into IFS anyway, so
Right. I'm sure it got you in a lot of things, got you in a lot of healthy things, right?
Yeah, it's the like I admire it for how do I phrase that? Like it may cause a lot of problems, but it's also very intent on solving even the problems that it itself causes, and I appreciate that.
Great. Yeah, just show it that appreciation and admiration.
Yeah. It's a very multifaceted part.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Handles a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is it receiving that appreciation?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it likes that. I think maybe this part is kind of the reason why I haven't made as much progress with the captain and stuff, because they're sort of deeper in the system, and this part was still in between those two and self. So it was trying to figure out how to do IFS on them, and that's probably why it wasn't working as well.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And like you said, it has done a lot of good. It's gotten you to a lot of good places.
Yeah, very true. It actually, like, it wants to know how to get better at stepping back. It would like to do that.
Yeah. And when you see it saying that, how do you feel towards it as you learn that about it?
I feel very affectionate towards it.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to it the other day about the same thing. Like it was like really the other day is when I had like a pretty in-depth dialogue with it. Or really I just sort of like I turned on a voice memo, which I sometimes do just to talk to myself, and and I was kind of like direct accessing myself, like,
nice.
and just talking from its voice, and it had a lot of thoughts that I was like, wow, it's a really, like, it deserves more credit than I've given, or than it's given itself, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Or other parts, maybe. I mean, there's
yeah,
just such a system of, like you said, it's so multifaceted. It's so connected to so many other parts. And yeah, I'm sure it gets all kinds of different appreciation and lack of appreciation.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, so it wants to know how to get better at stepping back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're feeling affectionate towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it noticing you right now?
It's noticing that it feels calmer. It feels like a source of love and compassion directed toward it. Which it feels like it doesn't experience too often. It feels like it's usually on its own. So it's good to not be. Yeah.
I would encourage you just to stay with it in that place.
Yeah. And it's afraid that self will go away. It doesn't. Right. Yeah. It's like, I can't do this on my own. Might be a little bit of the captain speaking up there too.
Yeah. You can just let it know that self is always there, and that this process that you just went through to get a look at this part and have it notice you is always available.
So it knows that it's always available theoretically, but sometimes, a lot of times, it feels like self is blocked either by it or other parts, and there's just not enough knowledge of how to unblock it. So it feels like self is going to be scarce, not because it doesn't exist, but just because it's hard to figure out.
Right. Okay. So it's seeing this as a knowledge problem and a figuring out problem. I mean, that's what it does. It's the task.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't know how to step back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. When you say step back, like right now, as you're noticing it, does that, and so obviously there's some separation there. Does that feel like distance? Does it feel like what does stepping back kind of feel like, or this connection you're having with it now? Can you kind of flesh out what that sensation is for you?
Yeah, there's a feeling of like effortless calm, I guess. And I think, yeah, so what boggles its mind is that that the calm is effortless. And if the calm is effortless, then that means there's nothing it can do and try to do to get to the calm. So how do you get to the calm? It's like mystified by that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you were there. It doesn't have to run the show. So it doesn't actually have to figure all of that out.
True.
It has played that role of figuring things out for all the other parts, and but it can be a partnership where self can bring that to the table. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a comedian in there. But yeah, anyway. Yeah. But it's still going like, but how do I have a partnership with self? I don't know. I don't understand how to do that.
Okay. Yeah, we can try to figure that out.
Yeah. It just doesn't know how to find self when it needs it.
And
I guess it thinks that it has to be the one to find self, which probably isn't true.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at, is that self can bring that. But on the other hand, right, when parts blend, they can push out self. So, I mean, what's jumping to my mind is just, again, the practice that you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Which, you know, we could write down the steps and put it in the task list. But also, I'm sure that I'm guessing that your experience is deeper than, you know, when you learned about this part and found appreciation for it, that was a feeling in your heart, or from self.
Yeah. And I also feel like I know the steps, honestly. I guess the problem is when I try to do it, and I guess this is the part it's I was speaking, but it's like when I try to do the steps, it doesn't work, because I guess the steps aren't sort of they're not something that part can do, or they're not, I don't know. It's like it feels like trying to divide by 0.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's kind of a paradox here.
Mm-hmm. And because it thinks so, it feels like it's me, so it doesn't understand that there's something else.
Yeah.
Deeper.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it intellectually knows, but it's hard to experience it.
Okay. Well, we can keep learning about this part, asking questions of it. I do have a, kind of a problem solving part of my own here that wants to just offer a suggestion. If you're interested.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, to put it in a word, it would just be practice.
True.
And like you could practice that. I mean, in theory, you could practice that 10 times in this conversation with me.
Yeah.
That could be something that we set up and we play with, of practicing. Okay, part, go away. Okay, part, blend with me. Okay, now I'm going to find that compassion and curiosity for you, or I'm going to ask you some questions and learn about you, or I'm going to kind of flesh out the part and see more about it. So that's just, that's kind of what I'm assuming would work, but I could be very wrong about that.
Well, we can try.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
is the part does it want to do that?
Yeah, it wants to try anything and see if it works.
Okay. All right. So maybe we should start by kind of pretending like we're going back to the beginning, and it's fully blended, right? Go back in that time. Go back at that time in your mind, wherever this part gets fully blended, and it feels like self is nowhere to be found.
Oh yeah. It's like I have to do things. I have to make sure everything is taken care of. Yeah.
Right. What do you notice about it?
Well,
how are you experiencing that?
It feels different. Like it feels like a change from where I just was, which is already kind of fascinating. Yeah. There's a real sense of just like I am what I do, and I have to make sure that I do everything.
Yeah.
And it is like a constant thing. Like from when I wake up to when I go to sleep, I'm thinking, am I checking off the items on my to-do list? Am I doing the things?
Right. Okay, and now kind of maybe starting again with that, like, how do you notice it in your body? Before you talked about tension in the stomach and chest, I think. Is there more that you can see or notice about that now?
It feels very, I don't know about like in my body, but it feels very like cognitively zoomed in. It feels like I'm not actually looking at life. It's like tunnel vision. It's like, there's no greater sense of peace.
It doesn't have the big picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's focused on the task and doing the things.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are a lot of parts that distract from the task, but this part is very focused on the task.
Right.
Yeah,
And now that go ahead.
It doesn't know that relaxation. It doesn't. There's no concept of just existing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just want to remind all parts, that we're not asking them to quit their jobs. If this part has a lot of useful qualities.
Mm-hmm.
So self-leadership is about being able to communicate with parts.
Yeah.
And hear from them, because we need them.
True.
It's not to override them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so now you've noticed it in your body again.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way that feels like it would work best for you now to show up for it from self?
Mm.
To get its attention, to...
Mm. Sort of maybe asking it to be aware of itself, of it being its own entity.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always a little bit of fear around that, around asking it to notice. In fact, the first time it noticed itself, like months ago, it truly almost freaked out.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that earlier about if this part isn't you, then it doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, that kind of feeling.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And when you notice that fear that it has, how do you feel towards it?
Definitely stressed. Like, oh no, even just working with my parts at all is gonna give me a mental breakdown. But also, if I give it a moment to settle, it does tend to get a little bit better. And then and I like the feeling of being connected to existence instead of just, what am I going to do next?
Right.
I remember having a party with some friends over the summer, and I may have told you this story already, I can't remember, but I loved getting the house clean every night that they were staying with me, because it was like a 2-week, it was like a 1 week long thing where we were at my house and they were visiting out of town. And I loved like cleaning up the house and getting it pretty again every evening so that we could sit around and talk and stuff. And then I would realize that once I had set everything up, I would sit down with my friends and I was still looking all over the house for different things I could rearrange and little imperfections. And I realized I didn't enjoy just sitting with my friends.
Yeah.
And that was weird. That was really weird to notice.
Yeah. So that part was uncomfortable when it has to
slow down.
When it's asked to slow down, right?
It was actually having fun making the house nice, but it was not having fun enjoying the nice house, which was felt so strange.
That's good to know what it finds fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it likes perfecting things. Organizing.
So when you hear this, when you recall this as part of showing you this memory, And also, it was showing you a moment ago the fear, the fear of the mental breakdown of being aware that it's its own entity. Does all that make sense to you? That it would feel that way?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you learn that about it, that it is this way. It is currently, that's its reality of having the tasks, having the fear, having this uncomfortable feeling of, I want to keep cleaning. How do you feel towards it as you notice that it's dealing with all of that?
I feel worried. Like I feel some compassion, but I also feel worry that's from either another part or that part itself. I'm not sure, because if you can't enjoy the things that you create, then it's like, what's the point of creating them?
Right.
Yeah, it's like all that work, and then when you're ready to get the payoff from the work, then it doesn't even register, and that's sad.
It's interesting. I mean, I hear that sadness. It's interesting that this part is so driven to do the things, and it itself is not enjoying the outcomes.
Yeah, it's like, it's like, wow, it sure is nice in here. Maybe it could be nicer if I did this or that. But I sit down to enjoy it, and something still feels wrong. And on the rare occasion that it can't find something in the environment to fix, because it always sees another thing to fix. But if it finally runs out of things to fix, then it has to confront this sort of terrifying reality that something in me feels wrong, and the wrongness is coming from inside me. And it's like, what do we do about that? How do we fix that?
How do we clean that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this part is in a bind around all of that.
It is.
It's got this tool of cleaning, of being on the tasks, and it knows, and it suspects, or it knows that will be ineffective for dealing with what I'm guessing are exile feelings of something's wrong with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the hurt, the discomfort is coming from within me.
Yes. And I've even done some parts work in a mirror before, and noticed very quickly that this one, and I'm just sort of putting it together now that it's all the same one, but this one is always messing with my hair. It's really, it's like, and I call that the fixer when I noticed that, like, you're fixing me, you're fixing my appearance, like constantly looking at me and making sure that everything, that I look a certain way.
So it sounds really difficult for this part.
And
it does sound like an impossible situation. The part cannot solve all of the problems.
Yes.
And yet it feels stuck, like it has to keep doing what it does, because that's what it knows.
Yeah. It was one thing when it felt as if doing enough would make it happy, but now we know that that's not the case, and so it's like, how do we move forward from that?
Right. Yeah. How are you feeling towards it as you get this fuller picture about the futility and the bind that it's in?
I feel sympathetic toward it.
Right.
And I feel sort of impressed at everything it's been doing.
Yes. And here you are again.
Yeah. It's kind of really interesting how it was able to hide from itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Impressed, sympathetic, and interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. That's self energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you got there by listening to its story.
Yeah, it's true. There's also still definitely some fear coming from it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's like both are present.
Okay. Should we learn more about that fear?
Yeah, it's kind of a fear of like, is this self energy that I'm putting out right now, is that really enough to heal what's wrong? What if it's not? And does even noticing that I'm in self distract me from self? Like it feels very precarious to it whenever self shows up. Like it's gonna go away. It's gonna scare it away.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. When it says, is self enough to heal what is wrong, is it referring to those exile those wrongnesses, or is it referring to its own bind that it's in?
Its own bind, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You could ask it, how it feels about just what we've done so far in understanding it, if that feels at all like a step in the right direction, or hopeful that at least some amount of self energy has at least some capacity to understand it, and to help it out.
It is. It is impressed by some of the progress, and it is like a traumatized child in a way. It's just like, what if the progress stops? What if something happens? What if just it's really scared of what happens if things don't work out, and so it's just kind of trying to make sure that they do.
And how do you respond to it when it raises those concerns?
Well, I say that they make sense because it has not seen its own healing yet, despite many, many, many attempts over the years. So yeah, it just makes a lot of sense to me. And yeah, I don't know. I feel for it. It sounds like a scary situation.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want to make any false promises about, or say like, oh no, I know that this will work. I wouldn't go that route.
Right.
But instead you could keep testing it with this part and see what works with this part. And it might be baby steps. It might be percentages that you're able to, take some of its burden from it. And yeah, that could be the way to build trust with it.
Yeah, I think the big insight for it lately is that it's important to approach these parts in order from closest to the surface to deepest, so that they don't get caught in front of each other. Yeah.
Right. They'll just keep interfering.
Yeah. Yeah. And since this one is pretty much by far the closest to the surface most of the time, it makes sense to spend a lot of time with this one.
How old does it think that you are?
Maybe like a teenager.
Okay.
feels there's just a thought of like, or an image of like being in school, feeling of being accountable in that sort of helpless way,
Right.
where other people decide everything you have to do, and if you can't do it, you're in trouble.
Yeah. And you mentioned that it had this kind of energy that felt like a kind of a scared child, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a feeling of like, I have so many things to manage, and I already know beforehand that I can't manage them all. So what the hell am I going to do?
Right. Yeah. So updated on your real age.
Okay. Yeah, it likes, I think it likes that. I kind of said like, I'm 29, and as long as I don't like completely fuck up at work, I'm not in danger of like real actual consequences.
Right.
And there's some relief to that. And that has been what I've been working on lately a lot, is just doing enough at work and then stopping the pressure on myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you could also address its concerns about the idea of being in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that yourself won't have negative judgment about it if it doesn't get all the tasks done.
No. Yeah, well, when it really looks at the current situation, there just aren't a lot of ways where my whole life is going to go under or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really thought about that before.
Yeah. So that could be something that you do for it. It's just
Mm-hmm.
remind it about your current situation, about your current age.
Mm-hmm. When something happens, like if I promise to do something for someone, or if I make a plan to get something done and I don't do it, then there's that feeling again. And I may know that my life isn't in jeopardy, but it still kind of feels that way from the idea of letting people down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just feels like letting people down is a very bad thing.
Right. And that makes sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
Right. Yeah, those are all parts that you can get to know in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And just like with this part, we're not getting rid of them or overriding them. Letting people down is an important thing to look out for.
Yeah. Well, and I think it is the same part that has that concern.
Yeah.
Yeah. Letting people down was kind of the whole feeling when I was growing up. Letting parents and teachers down was the constant feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I bet a big part of that was the environment.
Yeah. Definitely. I honestly don't know how anyone emerges from school without being like fucked up.
Me neither.
Yeah. It's
I don't know how I
nuts.
survived.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I barely did survive. It was close.
Yeah.
Pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
There's so little compassion for children.
There really is not enough.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing here.
Yep. For sure.
When you let that part know that that's crazy, that that's not fair, that it didn't deserve that it deserved more.
Yeah.
Then you can heal those parts of you.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know what we can do about all the other kids in the world, but
yeah, that is a whole thing.
With this project, with IFS, we can help out these parts.
Yeah, and there are certainly things that I'm going to teach my kids that I didn't know.
Right.
When I was that age.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that teacher in you, that person who loves children, that's the self energy also. And so again, that's present now. Like you don't need to wait till you have kids to turn that on.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already got kids in my brain.
There you go. Earlier you mentioned, parts worried about if you don't do the things, then you won't have a meaningful or heroic kind of life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just want to offer that it's possible that this journey of getting to know parts could be heroic and meaningful.
Yeah. That's true. Because it is connecting me with a sense of meaning that doing all the things clearly didn't lead me closer to.
Right.
And if there are things that I can do that I want to do in my life, I'll probably at least find them through this process. So
right. You'll develop more and more of a sensitivity to what is meaningful to parts and to self. Mm-hmm. And then you can more readily spot that out in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's this part feeling about all of this conversation around it and with it?
It feels hopeful. Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Any next steps? Anything that we do need to add to the task list or?
I think, well, I think I'll try to talk to this one first whenever I do work with parts, because it's almost a guarantee that it'll be there and it'll be blended. Mm-hmm. So remembering to ask it to unblend and to talk to it seems like the first thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not gonna put a hard rule on it because it just seems like they do what they want and they pop up if they want. And right. Yeah, my attempts to choose one to work on have not often worked out. But if I just let them pop up, then they seem to be willing to chat. So
great. Yeah. my system sounds similar in that my task manager is also kind of first in line most of the time. And yeah, that's until I can negotiate with that part. It's kind of, I can't get much further.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Any concerns or anything else to talk about with this part or with other parts?
I don't think so. I think I'm just gonna enjoy talking to this one and then see if it goes better talking to the anxiety ones.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank
as
you.
always.
Thank you for your willingness to experiment in this conversation. We did some interesting new things, and that was exciting.
I agree.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.
Okay. See you next time.
Bye.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows? That might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.